up, everybody? Coffee Conversations with Greg J is on. Inhale, exhale, settle our minds, for there is much in front of us, yo. Much in front of us. Hope you're doing okay. Just contemplating today. It won't be before you very long. Just wanted to really have touch bases, as we say. It's summertime. It's hot in most places. Storming down there in Texas. Hot all over the country. Record heat, as they say. That climate change is real, man. That's a whole nother discussion, isn't it? But climate change is very, very real. The good thing of it is that we're up. We're grateful to the Most High for this day. And contemplating the state of this nation. It's indeed tenuous, right? Turn on the news. President Biden is feeble looking. People in his own party are beginning to call for him to step down from the election season. They're ruminating on whether or not Kamala Harris would step into that role. Who would step into that role? I feel like it should be automatic, but that's a whole nother discussion, isn't it? Meanwhile, on the other side, you have, Trump, former President Trump, and his policies. A lot of folks don't like. I don't like them. And now there's a lot of discussion about this Project 2025 as Taraji P. Henson began to stimulate our consciousness towards that document. And it's pretty concerning when you go through it. It was put together by a conservative think tank, something that they've been doing with government for many, many years. There's a lot of think tanks like that. That's a whole nother show, isn't it? But the fact of the matter is that these conservatives and these people who want to control the country and who is in office and how the country is governed do have think tanks. And there's a way that they see this country operating now and in the future. It's concerning, right? What in tarnation is happening in this country? Yeah, well, the future is uncertain, but you know what? There's still hope. At the end of the day, there's still hope. And the hope is in the people. It's the people. If this place is for the people, by the people, like the document says, then it is up to us, the people, to speak loudly at the ballot box to determine what kind of nation we want, what kind of democracy that we want. We got to be about the business of preserving freedom. As crazy as this country is and as oppressive as it is, depending on your societal viewpoint, we are still here in America. Speaking from a Black perspective, we are American descendants of slaves. So our history, our lineage is deeply intertwined in the history and lineage of this country. And yet we find ourselves suppressed and oppressed at almost every turn. And now we're in a situation where it feels like this oppression is reverting back to the days of my father, the Jim Crow days, you know what I'm saying? Almost. Certainly the attitudes of hate are rearing their head in a more visible manner than ever before. And in recent years, I should say, ever before, but in recent years, it seems like we're going backwards instead of forward. But I say forward ever, backward never. I think it's important to note that your vote as an African American, as a Black person, is exceedingly important. I think it is important for you to be paying attention to what is going on in this specific time. We need to decide, what do we want government to be to us as a community? To me, man, it's really all about self-determination. I'm a child of the civil rights movement. I'm the generation that is the blessed hope of those who are marching in Selma, those who are marching in cities all over the country. Before I go on, I will point out that, this is my lineage, my ancestral heritage as a Black American. I'm not saying anti-America. I served this country. I took the oath. I served the country. My father served the country. So we know what America is. We know what it is to be an American. That said, it still is a country that is showing us that maybe we are not the most favorable citizens, if you will. It's like we're going backwards. But we can't allow it to go backwards. We can't allow the clock to be turned back on us. And so, therefore, self-determination is the key to the struggle in this day and time. There was a song back in those civil rights days by the community prophet, the cultural prophet, James Brown, when he says, "I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Gonna open up the door, get it myself." And that's the mantra that I feel we really need to be about. So what does that mean? Self-determination. We need to build our own communities. We need to build and strengthen who we are as a people so that we can be a stronger voice at the global communal table of trade and exchange. I feel like we're self-inflicting wounds on ourselves when we look at arts and culture as an example. What we are showing the world is not really who we are. Arts and culture is a driver for us, a commodity, a prime premium product of our community to the world. It is the number one. Our arts and culture are embraced by everybody. A lot of imitators. Everybody points and looks and sees what Black America is doing. How are you expressing yourself? And then they try to emulate that. You see the break dancers from China and stuff on social media, and you know what I'm saying, lowriders in Japan, and I mean it goes on and on and on. The clothing, the dialect, the style. But we have to be self-determinate with who we are. I'm a little concerned with how we express ourselves in arts and culture. So we have to be about that self-improvement. I also believe that that self-improvement comes with a knowledge of self. So what does that mean, Brother Greg? That means having a clear understanding of our history in America. You may hear a historic story, but from your perspective as a Black American, you have probably a parallel story, but from a different perspective. Because Black folks were there in history. We just were made to stand in the back and serve, and yes, sir, no, sir, not too much, no, sir, right? But yet and still, now that we are in this generation and we have the power of the pen, the power of the computer, the power of the phone to communicate, access to information and records and truths, we can now tell our own story in a more effective way. But because we have access to all of this information from a global perspective, we ought to think global. So that means we embrace history in Africa, because the same colonial mindset that we in America have worked our way through up until this point, you can see the same systems at work across the world in various countries, particularly on the continent of Africa. We can talk about Southern Africa, not just South Africa, but Southern Africa in the system of apartheid and how the people struggled to overcome that. And then now, 30 years later, how they are now rising up, becoming more effective at the global table of trade and culture and communication and exchange, right? You can talk all the way up into Ghana, who now, West Africa, just generally speaking, you can go all over that continent and just see how after years and decades of oppressions in various forms, these nations were able to gain independence, and now the movement is now to improve the community and uplift the community and be about culture from an African perspective. And so it's important for us as African Americans to link up and understand history from a global perspective. When we travel, we want to include and encourage you to visit Africa. You'll be surprised. We want you to understand history. We want you to be a part of history and expand your mindset thought from a global perspective, even as you maintain your central Black consciousness. I remember sitting in the classes of Dr. Shirley Weber, San Diego State, who was now the Secretary of State in the state of California, and listening to our history and listening to perspectives and helping frame thought as we move into the world in these new generations of Blackness. Somebody said, would you go live in Africa? Maybe for me, but that's everybody's right choice, okay? America, cool. You know, I'm from San Diego. My lineage is Cameroonian according to my DNA, but I don't know, I'm from Southeast San Diego, baby. That's the whole thing. And my mama's from Pennsylvania and my dad is from Texas. And so there's generations gone since Mother Africa. It's probably the same as you. But at the same time, I want to connect the dots from who I am now to whoever that was brought here through the transatlantic slave trade. Who that was, the strongest of the strong because they survived. And then when they landed here, generations of slavery, generations of oppression, Jim Crow, on and on and on. You know the drill, up until me. Who was that person? I'll probably never know the name of that person, but I can retrace the steps and include in my tourism, include in my view of the world, Mother Africa. And I can make the connective tissue, excuse me, to our road here in America. That's a global and roundabout way of saying, preserve our freedom, seek knowledge, think global. Things are really crazy in front of us. How we vote will matter. And no matter the outcome, we are still in a cultural revolution. We've got to take back our narrative. We've got to be about culture preservation. We've got to lift up the arts. We've got to be more positive. We've got to abstain from so much hypersexuality and debauchery. While that music has their right in America to exist, it does not belong in the forefront Or if it is at the forefront, which it is, what about equal time, if you will, for those songs that are liberating, that are illuminating, that are uplifting to our culture? We've got to vote. We've got to advocate. We've got to frame who we are and whose we are. We got to choose life. Consciousness and culture, y'all. Let's go to Africa. Peace and blessings. Oh, yeah. Love one another. Please. That's at the center of all. Love one another.